community of Mount Carmel, they're very much into gardening and all of that, you know. Yeah.
They organise such a cafe over the years.
Who designed all this?
Rosemary myself over the years.
Okay.
We spent a lot of time in the garden really because it was our outlet.
Yeah.
We were able to work together in the garden. This is nice area as well.
Oh, it's beautiful, yeah. Gosh, you could feel so close to God just here.
Jimmy, in your lifetime, you always said to me once that you wanted to leave the medical industry better conditioned than you found it. Do you think you've made some headway in that area?
Well, I hope I've made some small little contribution, both from the point of view. I suppose the biggest contribution I'd like to feel I made is that I was privileged to look after, I reckon, something in the region of 100,000 patients.
Wow.
Over my lifetime that I operated on.
Wow.
I put in about 14,000 artificial hips and knees into patients. So that I'd like to feel that my legacy was at an individual level looking after patients, wow, rather than from a hospital development point of view. That to me was just a very secondary aspect of my involvement. My life was really devoted to care.
Yeah.
And I was in such a privileged position that my life touched off so many people's lives. Yeah. And a lot of those people became very close and great friends of mine.
Absolutely.
And also too, I was very lucky and privileged that the area of care that I was in was reconstructive care. A lot of health care is destructive, like cancer surgery or taking out parts from people, and you're hoping they'll survive for a while. I was involved in sort of reconstruction, which was helping people who were debilitated either after accidents where they'd multiple fractures of bones or arthritic problems. So there was very much a positive element of healthcare where you were constantly looking at improving their welfare. And that to me made my life very easy, actually.
Wow, that's something I never thought of. Now that you've given me an answer like that, it would make me wonder, well, what did you feel you got looking back on your life? How was all that possible? Did you feel that somebody came into your life that made your life as rewarding as you just outlined? Was there somebody that you met along the journey that gave you this inspiration to look after over 100,000, you say?
Something in the region of 100,000.
That's amazing. What a legacy, what a gift to give back to God. When it's all over, you remember you hand all those gifts back and they're all ahead of you, you know, when you meet him, and you will meet him, please God. Is there somebody in your life that helped along the journey?
Well, I think the Lord had a huge part to play in my life, really.
Yes.
In that he blessed me with the ability to carry out his work, because when you look at sort of our Lord's time on earth, he was healing the sick and he was preaching.
Yes.
And they were his two main elements of life.
That's right.
When you analyse the people that he was healing the lame and the crippled, the people who were paralysed, the people that were suffering from leprosy, and the blind. They were the main people that the gospel mentions.
That's right.
Now he has actually transferred that ability to us as a medical profession to carry on that healing process.
Yes, yeah.
And a lot of my work was healing the lame and the crippled.
Yes.
A lot of the people who are blind can now see because of modern techniques that have been introduced, and leprosy is obsolete because of medical advances.
That's right.
So the Lord is actually transferring his skills to the medical profession. Yeah. And I've been very conscious of that all of my life, that we were doing very much the Lord's work. And this is why I feel the need for Catholic hospitals to continue in the future, because they are carrying out the Lord's work.
Brilliant. And that's getting harder as we get into a more secular society. We want to have this, political correctness is the right word, and what we're trying to do now is to try and keep everybody happy, but the Catholic ethos as you brought into your 3 or 4 hospitals. Is it 3 or 4?
Three,
Three major
yeah.
hospitals
Yeah.
here in Ireland. And did you ever use or call on a greater source of above before your operations? Did you bring in God into any of them, or silently or privately, or did you ever say a prayer before one of these surgeons?
Oh, privately, always.
Always privately.
Always.
Yeah, but
before-
you did do that.
Before I ever
Yeah.
operated, that was part of my routine.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That really, because when you look at the importance of Catholic hospitals, really, like the 3 great faith, hope, and love.
Yes.
Are the 3 great virtues that are
That's
so
right.
needed in Catholic hospitals.
Yes.
Because when people are sick, a lot of them turn to the Lord, because a lot of them have forgotten about the Lord in
That's
their life.
right.
They become sick, they're wondering what's going to happen to them, and it's a great turning point for a lot of people.
Absolutely.
And that's why they need an environment where the faith is important. Hope is a huge part of medical care, because everybody up to their dying moments needs some hope.
Absolutely.
The hope some people have, they may be hoping to live to see their children grow old, see them make their sort of Holy Communion or getting married. Some people hope only just to see the sun rise the following morning, that their life is running out. But you still have to give that element of hope to people up to the very last.
Wow.
And the 3rd virtue is love.
Yeah.
And what a greater place to show people love and compassion than when they're sick. And that to me is the virtue of a Christian hospital, not just a Catholic
Oh, yeah, I
hospital.
understand. Yeah.
But that those virtues are sort of portrayed, and that we're allowed to
Yeah.
sort of give that feeling to people.
Do you think we've moved away from that?
Oh, hugely,
Yeah.
hugely.
And
And I think a lot of the younger people that I see sort of in healthcare, they haven't the same empathy for the sick
Yeah.
that my generation was brought up with.
Yeah.
And I feel that I had the best of times in my lifetime in medicine.
Wow.
And that we had a wonderful sort of opportunity of caring for people.
Do we need a good leader to bring that back?
It's a combination of problems. A lot of the younger doctors now, they're looking over their shoulder because people have become so litigious.
Yeah.
And that to me is one of the big aspects that interferes significantly with care. We're always going to do our very best for people,
Yes.
and that, but you don't need that added stress
Yes.
of looking over your shoulder to see, are the lawyers going to get involved if you've taken some little step that you shouldn't have taken.
Yes. Yeah.
You know.
And then, of course, then that brings us on to another beautiful aspect of your life, with that great work that you have done and left behind a great legacy of hospitals. There was a little lady in your life.
It was.
And how did you meet her?
Well, I was so blessed. I've no doubt that Our Lady had a huge influence in bringing us together.
Yes.
I was working in Kappa in the orthopaedic hospital, and Rosemary came out to work there. She'd left school. She was studying to go into the bank because her late father had been a bank manager, and
Yes.
she was keen to go into the bank to follow him. And she took up a temporary post in Kappa Hospital.
Yeah.
And
She answered to small lads.
And she answered a small lad, and she always said to my children later, always don't never be afraid to answer a small lad or
Small
look at
lads,
small
yeah.
lads.
That's right.
So she answered a small lad to do a locum for 3 months in Kappa in the office. And around that time when she started, I was there for a few months, and I got my paycheck, which I felt, when I looked at it in those days, you got a little strip and you got your total amount and then the deductions, and I felt that they were taking too much tax off me. So I decided I'd go into the office, and at that stage there were only 2 girls in the office. This young girl who was just starting in the office called Rosemary, and a senior girl. And I showed them my little paycheck, and I sort of said, look, I have a problem, I think, with my tax. Is there anything I could do about it? And this young girl, 19-year-old Rosemary, looked up at me and she said, did you ever think of getting married? And that was our introduction.
Wow.
And how could I turn down an offer like that? So 18 months later,
Yeah.
I proposed her, and it was the most wonderful experience of my life, that we had that unity for an extraordinary 52 years.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Rosemary was a special person, and you wrote a lovely book entitled Rosemary. And to me, it is a miniature of the gospel for married couples. And the way I say that is you bring out not only the religious aspect of marriage, but also the beauty of marriage. And you tap into the most beautiful writings, but you express yourself in such a way that you had my wife and I crying. We said, wow, a man that could write like that about his wife, surely there is a message for all of us to be able to tap into, to say that's how we need to treat each other as we journey through this life. Could you just give us a glimpse, not a glimpse, but a long glimpse of Rosemary and you on that journey as you financed and brought 3 major hospitals to completion? You've brought 100,000 people you've helped on the journey through medical surgeries, but yet behind all of that, you had a wife that was so beautifully captured in your writings. And could you just share that with us, because it was so beautiful? I'd just love you to say it, what you experienced in the book.
But it's hard to say it really, because we had, I think we had a unique relationship.
Yes.
And this is why our marriage was blessed from day one.
Yeah.
Because over all those years, we never had crosswords.
Wow.
Over all that time.
My gosh.
Because we just had, if you like, the most extraordinary marriage where the two of us became one.
Yes.
And
beautiful.
she sort of read my thoughts all day, and
Yes.
I was able to read her thoughts.
Wow.
And I think when I look back, and when I wrote that little book, I wrote it for my children and grandchildren, that they'd have memories of Rosemary. And it was based really on St. Paul's letter to the Corinthians.
Yes.
And
that's very strong, and the whole book is based on.
It's based on that, and he described love, and I'll read out his message about love. St. Paul said, "Love is always patient and kind. It is never jealous. Love is never boastful or conceited. It's never rude or selfish. It does not take offense and is not resentful. Love takes no pleasure in other people's sins, but delights in the truth. It's always ready to excuse, to trust, to hope, and to endure whatever comes." And I think when I look back in Rosemary's life, she had those virtues in every way.
Jimmy, those virtues that you talk about in the book are absolutely stunning. And as I said, you had my wife and I crying. The pictures are beautiful. Can you just give us a little insight into those beautiful virtues that Rosemary had? And of course yourself, let's not forget, it takes 2 to tango. But you talk about, those virtues, faith, hope and love. Is there something you'd like to share on how Rosemary lived those virtues with your marriage?
Rosemary had great faith.
Yeah.
From the day I met her, she was always prayerful. She was young, and I think this was one of the great successes of our marriage, is that she was young. She was 19 years when we met. She was 21 years of age when we got married. I was 6 years older than her.
Okay.
But I think marrying young, to me, was a great advantage, because we grew up together.
Yes.
And I think we blended our lives together. I think it's much more difficult now when you think the average age now for a girl getting married, I think it's about 33.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's much more difficult for career people to sort of blend together at a later stage of life. And
Yes.
that, to me, was one of our great blessings.
Yes. Yeah.
As a result of marrying young and Rosemary's great faith, it reinforced my own faith, because at that stage when I was going out with Rosemary, she was a member of the Legion of Mary. She was involved in social work. She regularly, I think she went to weekly confession at that stage.
Wow.
So her faith was really transmitted from her own mother, who was a very faith-oriented person.
Yes.
And I was blessed with a mother-in-law who was an extraordinary mother-in-law to me as well.
Yes.
But I think faith was a huge part of Rosemary's tradition.
Beautiful.
And I think for any family, that is the foundation of a family as well,
Yeah.
to have it faith-based. And as a result, I think all the virtues that St. Paul spoke about really stem from faith.
Yes.
You know, like being patient and kind, all the virtues that we discussed.
You have in your
really-
book a lovely statement about kindness, where even the blind and the deaf can feel kindness.
Yeah.
Mark Twain.
Yeah.
I mean, kindness really does reach even those who cannot see or hear.
It does.
And that's beautiful, the way you got that across. I said, wow.
Yeah,
And
no-
Rosemary
no one was
had that
kinder.
in
Yeah.
a beautiful way. She seemed to never get cross with anybody.
She didn't. No, I never saw her cross.
Wow.
No, she had that element of
Patience.
patience, really, huge patience. And as you know, bringing up children requires patience. And she had extraordinary patience
Yeah.
with everybody.
Yeah.
And always an ear for listening.
Wow.
And understanding other people. So really, she made my life so easy and so blessed because of her
The
virtues.
dinner was left in the oven and she never asked you, why are you home late?
Never.
Can you explain that? Because that takes a virtue beyond.
Yeah.
Most women listening to this won't believe that.
Yeah, because my lifestyle was, I was very self-centered really when I look back, because I was totally committed to looking after patients.
100,000 patients.
And it was a very busy life really.
Yes, yeah.
From the time I qualified, I led a very busy life, so that I never knew what time I'd come home. There was never any demands made of me
Wow.
for home, even though we had 4 young children. And I'd appear whenever suited me rather to come home. But Rosen was used to this, and as a result, she cooked the meal for the children, put my meal in the microwave, and I heated it when I came in. And in all those years, she never once said to me, you know, what about coming home at a more respectable time? I come home, have a meal, and then I go back to do rounds later. I mightn't appear at home till 11:30 or 12 again.
That's a cause for sainthood.
So,
Just on that alone.
For her it was, really. Yeah, she had wonderful patience
Yeah,
like that.
absolutely.
And regularly too, we'd arranged to, in fact, one of the things we did in our life, which I think was I'd recommend to any young couples, to have one night a week where you go out and you continue your courtship, if you like.
Yes.
And you have a night out. And we had a babysitter booked for all our life, for
Did
one
you?
night a week, when the children were young.
Wow.
So every Tuesday, I don't know why we picked a Tuesday, because it was usually a quiet night.
Yeah.
And every Tuesday we went out together.
Wow.
And we had a few hours together. Very often I'd visit 1 or 2 hospitals during the time out, call in and see a few patients. You'd sit in the car patiently, and then we'd very often have something to eat.
Yeah.
But it was a great discipline, because we had time to talk about the children, to be together,
Yeah.
and not to have a third party involved.
Brilliant.
And that
Yeah.
over the years, we'd have the odd person say, "Oh, you're going out on Tuesday, we'll join you." We said, "No, you don't join us on Tuesday. We'll join you some other time."
Exactly,
Tuesday
yeah.
was our
Beautiful.
date.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And what a lovely memory. People listening to this will say to themselves, wow, we're living a life at 100 miles an hour. We're running here, running there. We seem to have less time for each other as a nation, as people, and we're always looking for that special moment. And you seem to have realized very early on in your marriage that no, this is a key part. And what a lovely message to send out to people now, that is as critical. Instead of sitting and watching the TV or film or looking at the mobiles, we're so caught up in the technology aspect. But here you had real time, and what a lovely memory looking back.
Well, we just loved our time together.
Yeah,
Really, we loved each other's company.
each other's company. Yeah.
And that made our life so happy, really.
The other virtue is hope.
Yeah.
You said that she had great hope, and you went through some very tough times in your marriage through circumstances of financing 3 major hospitals, her illness, and your you're saying that there was always hope there when things looked very bad for you, when the hospitals weren't always going the right way with the finances, etc. You seem to have together combined that other virtue of hope. Could you just tap into that and tell us where hope was in your life?
Well, Rosemary gave me great encouragement. Firstly, looking after people, because she always felt that that was my priority and became her priority, that nothing interfered with my care of patients.
Wow.
And as a result then, when I got involved in hospital development, the reason I got in hospital development was because at one stage I found it...
Development means what? Just so to...
building hospitals.
Building hospitals, sorry,
providing services.
Yeah.
Was that the state weren't providing adequate facilities, and I was very curtailed in my work at one stage, and I even considered having to emigrate in order to continue looking after people, because I was so restricted. But Rosemary gave me fantastic encouragement to undertake that.
Wow. And
it was very much a joint venture between herself and myself that we actually got involved in providing services. Now, Rosemary had a fantastic financial brain, and as a result, she managed all the finances of the hospitals, which was very considerable. Not so much in the original Blackrock Clinic, but in the Galway and Hermitage Clinic, she managed the total finances.
Wow. They were big investments.
They were big. They were 100 million each, which was a lot of money in the 1980s.
Still a lot of money.
She wrote every cheque and managed everything. And I tell you, there was no one messing around with her with cost overruns. They wouldn't have got away lightly with any deviation from normal. So from that point of view, we had a great closeness, and we also involved our children in that process as they got older. So
I think that was one of the highlights of your career, was that your children were involved in helping you to develop these hospitals from a field to its full completion. Tell us a little about the children and how important that was for you and Rosemary.
Well, we were blessed with 4 children. One of my daughters is in medicine, and that the second daughter became an architect, and she was very creative and was involved in the original design of the Galway clinic, and did some of the original drawings of what the place might look like. So we worked closely together, and then my 2 sons both got involved in helping with healthcare as well. They both did business studies, and then they got involved. So that I think the happiest time of my life was working as a family group. Rosemary was doing the finances, Irene doing some of the architectural work, and the 2 sons then doing the, if you like, helping with the construction, helping with the marketing, selling units to doctors to support the place.
And putting manners on the manufacturers to make sure they got the best deal.
Yeah, and helping. And I totally, I absolutely enjoyed those years.
Yeah.
They were great years. They were the happiest time of my life, really, was working.
Good.
For a period of about 5 years where we worked very closely.
Wish I could say the same.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jimmy, that was beautiful, and there's a family coming together, and all surrounded by the parents to build something that will last long in generations to come. And what a lovely story to keep that into the heart of. It was a family that built these hospitals from the beginning, because I know from my experience working with you, you didn't have support from government, you didn't have support from insurance companies, you didn't have support from suppliers or banks, they didn't rush to you. But yet here is this family that came together and stayed together, and this is the faith, hope coming together, and now you were able to do something fantastic. Does that not tell us something about how important family is? Because here's a family that could do this. If we could get this into every family, and despite the trials, what could nations do with their people if they could get the family right? as you know, family life is in tatters now, and we need that back. But look at your story; it's beautiful. Just tell us how important your family life was while you were doing all of this.
Oh, the family life. Well, as I said, I was a disgrace in lots of respects from a family point of view because I wasn't around very much. But the time we had together was quality time.
Yeah.
And when the children were young, we had wonderful holidays camping in France particularly. If you ask the children what the happiest memories they have of holidays, it was camping. Very, very basic sort. We had a caravan and we just toured around, and it wasn't staying in fancy hotels or such holidays. They just loved the natural sort of life.
Beautiful.
So we had wonderful family times together. And to me, if you like, you know, I'm very saddened to see the way family life is disintegrating.
Yeah.
But marriage for a start, you know, because if you haven't got marriage for a start, you don't have family life.
Yes.
And when I look at the rates of marriage, particularly in Ireland, we're dropping now to sort of a level where families aren't sustainable. Our birth rate is down to 1.6.
Yeah.
We need a birth rate of 2.1 to maintain our family life. And I think that when you look at countries that have given emphasis to the family, Hungary to me stands out as an extraordinary country. I don't know how familiar we are with Hungary,
I am, yeah.
but when I see what they've done in Hungary, they've incentivized family life because the birth rate was falling. They weren't able to sustain their population, and the government in the last number of years have put a huge emphasis on sort of improving the conditions for families, so that everything in Hungary now is based on the family.
And it's the EU that's taking legal cases against them because they want to protect family life between a man and a woman. Yeah. And this idea now that it can be anything you want, that the Western Hemisphere is influenced, they're going against that. So they're not the most popular nation in these times that we're living in.
To say the least of it, they're not, but they're actually making a huge contribution because they now have been, over a 5-year period, they increased their marriage rate by 74%.
Wow.
You know, whereas our marriage rate is falling significantly. Yeah, over that same period, it fell significantly.
So there's hope there.
I think there's great hope if we could emulate what countries like Hungary have done. It would be great.
Listening to you talk about Rosemary just makes me feel like I know her, and I'm looking at her here as I'm talking to you. She is such a special person, but obviously she had great understanding of love, and her love sprung out in so many different directions. Could you just give us a little insight into love? And I mean, you also had love, because it works together. The both of you had love. And let's talk about love in marriage, and why is love to be just me, I and myself, or is it to be given outwards to share with others? Maybe you can tap into that for me.
Yeah. Well, I suppose again, I was so privileged that I benefited so much from her love, because she gave me an extraordinary level of love, but she gave it to our children, and she gave it to everyone that she interacted with as well. Beautiful. Because she had that personality of reaching out to others. She wasn't in any way self-centered. She had wonderful talents herself. She was a wonderful musician. She had a wonderful voice, and she won the Feis Ceoil before I ever met her, and that for playing, accompanying herself to the harp. She's a great harpist, but these talents she never spoke about, and a lot of people never even realised up to the time that she died that she was a wonderful musician. So that her love actually was very much outward, and I think it helped me as well, looking after patients as well, that I was able to sort of focus on an outward element of love. We had that wonderful love for each other, but we also reached out to others. And I think that gave us a great fulfillment in life
Yes.
to have that outreach.
You had the source of love was in the home and around your children, and it would appear that Rosemary gave you an unwritten directive to go out and help others, even though it wasn't written down anywhere. But you felt so comfortable in able to do your work. She gave you the permission without being hounding, without hounding you, and it seems like the expression of love was real. It wasn't something you know, can I go out tonight or not. It was like it was built into your DNA, as it were, that you both knew what you wanted for each other, and you didn't seem to have a confrontation with each other because you both had the same source of love, and that love was so strong that it didn't. Nothing could break it, you know. And that's what I'm getting across from you. Is that right?
Nothing could break it or interfere with it, really.
Brilliant.
Yeah, and Rosemary had her trials and tribulations because she developed rheumatoid arthritis at a young age. She was in her mid-30s.
Okay.
And she developed, and rheumatoid arthritis is a condition where it affects your joints, and her hands and feet were affected badly. It interfered. In fact, she had to discontinue her music because she couldn't play the piano or the harp because her hands were interfered with the arthritic process. But she bore that very silently. Most people never even realised she had an illness.
Wow.
And she had that up to the time she died.
Wow.
So that she had a lot of hardship herself, but nothing was ever spoken about it.
Just listening to you talk about that, it just gives me goosebumps because, I mean, usually we're like a people, we always grumble or something is me, but here is a person takes her cross and carries it in silence.
Oh, absolutely.
Out of love.
Yeah. And it wasn't easy, particularly bringing up the children when they were young at that stage. She found it a struggle going to the supermarket and coming home with shopping and that.
Yeah.
But thank God, over the years, her condition actually improved because with new drug therapy and treatments, it helped her in the last 15 years of her life.
Brilliant. Yeah.
But sadly, the treatment that she was on, known as immune suppressants, interfered with her lung function, and she developed problems with her lungs, and that was what ultimately sort of was the cause of her death.
Yeah, the drugs have after effects, and then you have to weigh it all up. Well, if you didn't take it, would the 15 years be there? And if you did,
and there were wonderful 15 years that she got
absolutely.
Sort of relief from her problems.
Your family was blessed so many ways. Obviously, prayer was a key part of it. From what it's sounding, it was a key part. Mass, the rosaries.
Well, when I look back, we didn't have the family rosary. When I was young, we always had the family rosary. It was a big part of our life.
Okay.
But because of my irregular life, I was never home for a family rosary. The kids were usually in bed by the time
dinner, Jimmy.
I get home. So it was Rosemary very much
did all of the prayers,
led the prayer life with the children.
Excellent.
And
was she a daily community?
She was.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, most of her life, there were periods when she was sick or when the kids were young.
Absolutely.
But by and large, she was daily communicant.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And you did a lot of auxiliary work, like Legion of Mary work, or helping the priests, or helping various groups like that.
She was very supportive of the priests, particularly.
Yes.
She always felt that priests needed a lot of support and prayer.
Yes.
And she had great friends as priests. And you were at her funeral. And,
yes, I do remember
both days, the night of the removal to the church, there were about 15 or 16 priests, and the following day, and they weren't all the same priests.
Wow.
So altogether there was maybe sort of 25 different priests at her funeral.
Blessing,
yeah.
Wow.
Which was just an indication as to the relationship she had with priests.
Yeah.
Because she always nurtured their company. They were always welcomed into our home. A lot of people are afraid nearly to ask priests into their home. But it was very much part of our life the priests were always integrated in with the children.
You probably never saw them, Jimmy, because you only came home and they were gone.
Yeah, they were gone. But it was great that the priests were such a part of our
Yes,
life.
absolutely.
And,
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And I think it also made our children are very aware of the priesthood and
Yeah.
what they were doing for us.
She had a lovely other gift, and you mentioned it in the thing about prudence. Can you just tap into prudence?
Yeah, it's not one that St. Paul mentioned, and I'm sorry he didn't mention it. But prudence to me was Rosemary's greatest virtue.
Wow.
She read people so well. She had an uncanny knowledge, really, of how to handle people.
Yeah.
And to me, I think it was the greatest virtue that I saw in her.
Wow.
You know, that and also a sense of fun.
Yeah.
Because to me, life, our life was fairly serious, particularly my work was serious and that, but there was always an element of fun involved. And I think that made for a huge element of our happiness together.
Yes, yeah.
That she saw the funny side of everything.
Yeah.
And when I came home at night, she'd always say, look, tell me something funny that happened today. It was never sort of, don't tell me about the problems, but let's look at something funny.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that to me gave me a huge element of
Yeah.
happiness
Good.
as well.
Can you give me an example of something funny that you would have remember?
Well, one of the things, the other thing, she was very direct. There was no beating around the bush, you know, and if she wanted to say something straight to me, it was absolutely straight. And I always remember the night of the millennium, we had a dinner here for some of our friends in the house, and then we went down to the roof of the Blackrock Clinic to look at the fireworks display on the bay.
Yeah.
And then we were tucked into bed, and I said to her, you know, have you made your New Year's resolution? And she said, indeed I have. And that straight away. And I said, well, would you share it with me? And she said, from now on, I'm going to call a spade a spade. But what have you been doing for the last 35 years? Because she was always so direct.
Yeah.
And I always knew where I stood with her. And I think it's a very important element for marriage, really, for a happy marriage, that you always know where you stand.
Where you stand, yeah.
You know,
yeah.
and we never went to sleep at night with an outstanding problem.
Okay.
And if there was ever something that we needed to discuss or work out,
Yeah.
it was worked out before we went to sleep. And we never carried anything over to the following day.
Yeah.
And I think that to me was a sort
Fantastic.
of a lesson for others
Wow.
in life.
So you leave little notes on the bed for the boys to
Or
do
to
jobs or whatever.
To behave
but-
themselves.
To behave themselves, yeah. But
Yeah.
she'd never give out to them. She would just leave the notes.
Well,
Is
she
that-
might sort of, no, I wouldn't say she never gave out to them,
Okay,
but,
all right, yeah.
but there was the odd little note sort of about behaviour.
Yeah.
Left on the bed
On
for
the
the
bed,
boys,
yeah.
and they'd read these little notes and tear them up and throw them in the waste bin. But she had a very gentle way of dealing with
Lovely, yeah.
the children.
The kindness
Yeah.
coming out
Yeah,
again.
and that kindness actually was reflected when Rosemary got sick in her final illness, particularly. Like the love that the children showed to her was quite extraordinary.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
beautiful.
that they reciprocated her love in so many ways, and
Fantastic.
still do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great
How did the
fondness.
children, now that you have, see them bring your children, got married and have children, do you see the same attributes that they have been taught in your family carried on into their family? Do you see a parallel?
Oh yeah, particularly Rosemary's attributes.
Yeah,
They really emulate her in so many ways.
brilliant.
Yeah, and they've such love and fondness for her. Really.
Now, isn't that so important, Jimmy? Because there are many families growing up without fathers or mothers,
Yeah.
and look what the gifts that God has given us through marriage, and then we pass on what the good parents do to the next generation, and they to the next generation, and when that is destroyed, which it is certainly today, what chance do those children have growing up with no fathers? And you know, we have a society where, when I was growing up, the word suicide never came into our conversation, wasn't even mentioned. Now it seems to be more popular than ever. Broken homes, single parents, boys and girls getting married, but they don't get married, they live it with each other. It seems to be now a situation where a boy can be a girl and a girl can be a boy. So the whole infrastructure of marriage is now collapsing. And listening to your beautiful story, you're giving your children and your grandchildren a great start that a lot of families are not getting because of the marriage has been destroyed. Do you want to share some thoughts on that? Or?
Oh yeah, I see it as so sad, really,
Yeah.
to see the breakdown in marriage. I think is it 3 out of 5 children now in Ireland are born out of wedlock, and that it's that's the majority.
Yeah.
You know, and to me it is so sad. Single parent homes, it's part of our housing problem as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Because you know, when the couple split up, they're not married, they go their separate ways, they want 2 separate homes then, rather than having one home.
That's right.
And I think a lot of our homelessness, most of the people you see that are having problems with homeless are single mothers, and that's where the husband is no longer involved. So that our breakdown in society, but I'd have great hopes again, because looking at Hungary, you can reverse it.
Absolutely.
One of the things the Hungarians did is they appointed a minister for the family, and I was privileged to meet the family minister a few years ago, who subsequently became the president. Novak is her name, Katarina Novak, who is now the president of Hungary, was the minister of the family, and she came over to talk to us in Ireland a few years ago, and I had dinner with her, and she was an extraordinary person.
Wow.
And having listened to her story, there is great hopes.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we need our politicians tuned in. We need a minister for the family in Ireland, and we need to emphasise the importance of family life.
Let's get this little documentary out to them, and let them realise that
how important it is. That
absolutely,
they're talking about trying to improve society, but if they're not emphasising family, they're losing the plot. And I think that to me is the most important
as John
message.
Paul II says, once the family goes, there goes the nation.
Yeah, and how right he is.
And Sister Lucy talks about the final battle between our Lord and Satan will be over marriage. So it looks like their prophecies is now in full swing, and we are trying to now row back the tide and restore the family back to the way God had planned it.
That's the way it was planned, really.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Rosemary, you are such a beautiful woman to be described here by your beautiful husband, and a gentleman to his fingertips. I can say that to you right now, if you're listening. He's a gentleman. But I will say you have spoken about so many things in this beautiful book, which I'm so glad now we're able to turn into a little documentary. But one aspect that I've learned from Sister Lucy, the last visionary of Fatima, is the 10 Commandments. You wouldn't have thought that would have been the central message, but I'll give you a little intro into this idea. That when Our Lady came in 1917 on the 13th of October, she said, I'll tell you who I am and I'll tell you what I want. And what a lot of people don't realise is, well, what did she want? Now, I told you who I am the Lady of the Rosary. Yes, we know that she's the Lady of the Rosary, but what did she want? And our Lucy talks about what she wanted was, do not offend God anymore because she's so much offended. He's so much offended. Do not offend God anymore because he's so much offended. They're Our Lady's last words at Fatima. And in page 270 in Calls from the Message of Fatima, Lucy then brings that out, says, well, why is that the central message of Fatima, or one of them? It's because how do you love God? If you love me, you'll keep my commandments. So how do you offend them? By breaking them. And she goes on to say that when people offend God, abortion, divorce, same-sex marriage, euthanasia, all of these sins of the flesh, sins against God, not going to Mass, etc., not bringing the faith on to the next generation. And she goes hammer and nail into her books on all of this aspect, and she gives a whole 10 chapters on each of the commandments. When I read your beautiful book, I see you do the same, and in this way I think the book is is amazing, and you seem to have captured the central message of Fatima in this book. Would you like to tell me why you use chapter 8 to talk about the Ten Commandments based on that long introduction by me?
Yeah, but I suppose the Ten Commandments have always been, if you like, our moral compass. But it struck us some years ago. We were down at a wedding in, I think it was Middleton and Cork, and we were in the church. And at the back of the church, they had a framed area with the Ten Commandments written up in it. And it's something that struck us that day in the church, that there isn't enough emphasis on reminding us of the Ten Commandments. When we were young, we learnt them off. The younger generations, they don't even know the Ten Commandments. And Rosemary sort of always said, look, wouldn't it be lovely to have a campaign and try and reintroduce, like in every church, that you'd have a framed picture of the Ten Commandments, and to remind people, because the Ten Commandments, if you like, are all about love. The first few commandments are about the love of the Lord, and the remaining commandments are about love of your neighbour.
Yeah.
So really, it's a wonderful, if you like, how would I put it? It's a wonderful guide for life, looking at the Ten Commandments. And if you do nothing else but abide by those Ten Commandments, I think that you're doing your part in life.
Yeah, absolutely.
And really, the reason I put them into the little book about Rosemary was that I wanted my own children and grandchildren to remember that the Ten Commandments are such an important aspect of their life as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Because when you die, a lot of people don't realise this, and Lucy brings this out in her writings. I'll have some of your put into it, Jimmy.
Yeah.
When he's joking. But she says that when you die, does God judge you?
Yeah.
And the answer is no. No. She says in the scripture in John's Gospel, I did not come to judge the world, but to save it. He who does not keep my word, I do not judge them. You judge yourself against the word of God when you die. Yeah. Now, she carries on page 270, she says, well, if God doesn't judge you, what will you judge yourself against when you die? Yeah. And she says the Ten Commandments.
Yeah.
So there you are. Why are they so important? Because we judge ourselves, we see our life given back to us, and the Ten Commandments are there, and we will see how we performed, and we judge ourselves against all the wrong that we've done, or all the good that we've done. Yeah. And the more good that we've done, the scales are in our favour. And if we've done nothing but only thought about ourselves and disobeyed the commandments, then it's not looking good. And this is why we say to people, repent, repair your lives into penance. Lucy Shouts highlights that in our book. It says people need to repent and repair and do penance. And we don't have a society that's doing that at the moment, but I see, hopefully, please God, will bring that about in his own good way. Jimmy, we'll summarise now, and you've had a fantastic innings, life, experience. What message would you give to the nation, to the world, taking the Hungary experience of the President of Hungary? Is there some last thoughts that you'd like to say, in general, rather than in...
I'd love to emphasise the role of the family.
Yes. Because
to me, I was so privileged to have experienced an extraordinary family life.
Yes.
And having experienced it from my own parents gave me a wonderful opportunity in life.
Yeah.
And that.
Your father was down in the docks working in the offices or something?
He was working in the offices.
He always wanted to go to third level, didn't he?
Yeah, and he never got the opportunity because his father became sick.
Yeah.
And he supported the family for a number of years, and he put a huge emphasis on third level education, and he gave us all a wonderful opportunity of getting that start in life.
Lovely.
With a great sacrifice. And when I look back, I don't know how my parents actually were able to send us to university.
Wow.
And that, and as a result of their interest in the family, I suppose it made me have a sort of a huge interest in my own family.
Beautiful.
as my brothers and sisters also had.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think that the breakdown of family life to me is the biggest tragedy that I've seen in my generation.
Yeah.
And I'd love to feel that, you know, we could do something about helping the family and marriage in the future, because if it continues the way it is, I think we're on a path to disaster.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Jimmy, I want to thank you very much for opening up, welcoming us to your home, to allow this beautiful story to unfold, to share with others. And of course, what we want to do more than anything is to help other families and help both the church and the governments to start to realise that, look, we need to go back and rebuild the nation with the family and not leaving it, stranded out there without the support and the infrastructure. We need to go back and sort it all out. And please God, this little short documentary will help to achieve that. Thank you very much, Jimmy, and I really appreciate you taking us into your home to do this little short documentary.
Well, Tom, it's been a great privilege to talk to you, and our friendship goes back a long way, and you've been a great help to me in my life, particularly in financing the hospitals, and I owe you a great debt of gratitude, and thank you for all you're doing for the family in Ireland.
Thank you, Jimmy. God bless you, Jimmy. That's lovely.
Who is on the cross? The new Adam. Who's beneath the cross? Mary, the new Eve. What's going to happen? Nuptials. The consummation of a marriage. And then to John, there's your son. And to John, the son of Zebedee, there's your mother. This idea of marriage and nuptials, which is carried over into the New Testament, is now initiated in the New Testament on the cross. He comes to the marriage bed of the cross, and there consummates his marriage, not on with pleasure but with pain, and unites himself to the woman forever. In other words, the Blessed Mother stands for the beginning of the church. Our Lord is the head of the church. He's the spouse, she's the bride. And there's already the beginning of the church, beginning of a family. It's John. Then at Pentecost, what do you find? You find how the family has grown. There are 120 there at Pentecost. And the Blessed Mother and the Apostles in the midst of them all. So that you married people, when you came to the altar, you were told, the bridegroom was told, you stand for Christ. And the bride was told, you stand for the church. So what is we see here, therefore, is the beginning of the church.
Gloria Dei Patris.
Take my hand, lead me to heaven.